In this video I want to walk you through the process of how I evolved the cover of my book, and it's partly photography, partly graphic design, but mostly it's about marketing. Because when you think about it, you go into a bookshop, there are thousands of books all clamoring for attention, and to stand out in that is not easy. Now, I've never designed a book cover before, so what I always do in this situation is I look at a good example, something that I like, and I copy the ideas, right? So here's a book that I really like, and this is Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs and Steel. And the title is really important here, and it encapsulates a really complicated idea. Guns, right, that's power, violence and so on. Germs, that's pretty obvious in a pandemic. And steel, technology, industrial might. And to back each of those concepts up, they've got the images here. There's the guns, there's the test tube for the germs obviously, and the spanner for the steel. And there's lots of white space around it, so it's not too busy, and I really like this book, and it's also a good read. Now, when I started the project, writing my book in early 2017, I didn't really have a good idea of exactly what the book would be, except that I knew it would be about people and the environment. But I needed a business card and I needed a working title. So I came up with this one, which is Renewing Australia. That's okay, good enough to get me going. And I put the yellow lettering on this vibrant blue backdrop, and that photo that I took in Binalong, and it's got the windmill there, and the windmill has the people. It implies people, and it's a fairly run down kind of a windmill, so there's this bit of a struggle between keeping things alive. And that was great, and I got a good response from using that. Now, the next thing I tried was bounced around this one. Here's a photo I took out near Cordillo Downs, which is east of Birdville, and you can see there's the car, and the lines of this image are all kind of leading you into the centre, and you've got the bright glaring sunlight, which is sort of like climate, and I've got the blue background and a yellow lettering, and this font it's called Eraser Dust. I kind of attached to that font, but it's probably not always the best one, but anyway, I'm heading there. And the next thing I did was I tried this one, and this is also out towards Cordillo Downs, a bit further south, in this bleak landscape, the Gibber Desert. I've still got the funny font, the yellow on the orange I think works pretty well, and I put the word people in there, and you can also see my shadow, which could be anybody's shadow, but then that kind of puts the person in the landscape. You can see the idea is evolving. It's not quite there, but it's way too grim really for what I want. I want something a bit more positive. And so here's another one. I've still got the font, still the yellow, but now this is a farmscape, and so that's a bit more promising. And I put this subtitle, 10 People, 10 Journeys, 1 Planet, and it's better, still not there. And also, of course, this is now in portrait format, not the others which were landscape, because in a book you've got to be portrait format. Then this one's a bit more optimistic again. People are really explicit now in the landscape. This is Margie Fitzpatrick, who owns a sheep farm north of Lake George, and she's a really vibrant, energetic people, and here she's enthusing to people about what she's done on her property to restore the watercourses, and that's a really good thing. And I've got the title is still Renewing Australia, and then Heroes of the Environment, a subtitle, 10 People, 10 Journeys, 1 Planet. The heroes word, well, they are hero stories, but yeah, I'm trying a bit too hard. Got to be a bit more subtle than that. Another theme that comes up in the book is the influence of Aboriginal people, about their heritage and what they achieve living in a really, really difficult landscape. And so I've kind of used this as the serpent snake, symbolises life and so on. Good. I wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea of appropriating their artwork. And then here's something a bit left field. This is a drawing that I did. It got a bit of a Dr. Seuss flavour, I realised after I'd done it. But I like the fact you can see this thing growing from a germ, this plant that kind of evolves into a wind turbine. Like it. I will use this, I think, for other things, but not really appropriate for the book. Not least because it's landscape format, not portrait. And then the idea was really coming together when we were camping in the Victorian Alps. So here we are, just next to where the campsite was, and you've got the land, the water there, which is really an important theme in the book as well. But I needed to make it really eye-catching, and this is what I did. I turned it into a tiny planet. Now I did that using a little app on the Android, which is really good, really simple. And it kind of really grabs your eye because it wraps the whole planet into this little globe, and you could kind of relate to that. And I still needed to put people into it, so here's another version. I propped my ultra-wide angle lens up on the back of the garage, photoed myself, and then photoshopped myself onto this tiny planet. Even I put a little shadow underneath me. Now I'm not quite there with the colour and everything, but getting there. Now it's coming. Now it's really working. I've got the water, I've got me, I've got that beautiful verdant green, and I've got the blue, and I've got the clouds. And I've done quite a bit of work with Photoshop here. Like I've changed the size of the trees, I've pushed the clouds around a bit, and there's a join where the 360 degree wraps around, so I've had to kind of smooth that out. Quite a few hours of Photoshop, but I knew I was on the right thing when I saw this. And now I've brought in the Aboriginal theme without making it really too strong. It's fairly subtle, and if you look around the edge of the field here, there are 10 curved lines. Each one of those is a campfire symbol, and they represent a person in the book. And the dotted lines are the tracks, and they all lead into the centre. Now they don't lead directly to me because I'm not the centre of the book. I'm an observer and I'm in the story, but it's not a book about Rod. And then, bang, it's all come together. Somewhere I saw the words fragile planet, and I realised this book is about a fragile planet, because while the Earth seems like really, really big place, and on the scale of a single human it is big, and when there was only 1 billion people 100 years ago, yeah, our impact was local, but now there are 7.7 billion people and climbing rapidly. Our impact on the planet is huge. In fact, we completely transformed it. So the planet is really a lot more fragile than we've always thought. Now we've got 10 journeys, and we all love a journey. A journey goes from somewhere to somewhere else, and you're changed by that journey. So each of the people's journeys are in this book. And for the final icing on the cake was I got endorsements from these people, from 3 people. At the top there, Mark Diesendorf, and I asked him to do a few comments for the book, and he just said to me off the cuff, oh, this is an important book. Bingo. That's what I wanted, and that takes prominence on the top. And then there's the other ones, which from Will Steffen, a world-leading climate scientist, very generous guy, gave me some comments, and Julian Cribb, highly recognised science and environment writer, and I knew it was working. And then the real moment of joy was, there we go, I finally held a copy of the book, and Craig had it at his house, and I burst into tears almost. I nearly wept when I saw it. I didn't know it was going to come out in this large format, and it looks beautiful, and I love it, and well, I hope you do too.